What's up guys, Nightingale here, and welcome back to the Intermediate Traveler's Guide. Today, I'm talking about Advanced Caides 13. Now, why Advanced? Advanced because I'm saying that I almost needed to put this inside of the Adventurer's Black Book, but I felt like this is where it really belongs, because this is for people who do not want to one-shot a hunt. This is what, basically the gearing here is for people who want really high-end builds for non-one-shot based hunts. And in this case, this is kind of one I almost agree with doing. Now, personally, am I glad I have the one-shot? Yes, because while it's successful, you know, when it's on a successful run, because you can technically be more successful than the 75, 85%. When you get a good run, it feels great. When you get a lot of runs of 15% and just fails, yeah, it feels bad. But when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's painful. But it's not as painful as sitting through it for 10 minutes waiting for a run to finish. Or, in this case, I think it's around 4 minutes-ish. I can put up a timer on it if I decide to go for it. But, here's what I'm saying. This isn't a brand new player-friendly team. As far as gear, let's put it that way. The team itself is actually fairly free-to-play friendly. You just need to have Great Chief Kiwana. So let's get into it and I'll start talking about it and you'll understand more what I mean. So here we go. Here's the team. 3 normal RGBs and an ML4. Now, the reason I went with this team is because it's super safe. I really enjoyed it and it allowed me to use a lot of units that I already had built. Now, what I've already done here is I've made them now better than they originally were. Reason being is because if it's somebody like you who's wanting to go long-term in, you need to make the investment further. Now, I will say this. Kiwana is probably the least invested unit here because I've done the one-shot comp before I really invested into this. If you decide now that you don't really want to, this is definitely the investment you want to take. So we're first going to start and we're going to talk about the supports here. First up, let's talk about Rowana. So you can see that Rowanna's got a team imprint here. I'm using Rowanna's S imprint. Of course, not everybody's going to have access to this. Some have probably triple S. I have a single S. I will say with Rowanna's build, it is really not too terribly much different, but it's a lot bulkier than I normally have her. Specifically being is because this is people's normal other gear. But for this, I want her to be able to take a punch because she's going to be the main focus here. Some people like to say to put her on a speed boot just to help get her to cycle around more. I can kind of see why, but I just don't have to be able to get super bulk and speed without getting close to feeling like I might sacrifice Rowana and she might die. Artifacts here, I'm personally using Idol's Cheer because it's going to synergize along with Great Chief Kiwana. I personally think I can get away with Touch of Rekos or some other Soul Weaver artifact, but I think I like this a little bit more because it's going to help push her forward just a little bit higher because she's the highest attacked unit. I haven't even plus 15 this because I rarely use Idol's Cheer, but in the case of Expeditions and Caides, I can see the value of it, and I just don't have Charms right now, or else I would have this at least plus 15. So as you can see, we got some thickness all over the screen. All right. No ER. I know. Feels bad for Rowana, but hey, technically having some ER isn't probably the worst idea here, but again, with where I was at and trying to get the bulk, I went a little overboard, but hey, she's thick. Thick. I mean, stop focusing on the thickness over there and focus on the thickness there. Okay, so I wanted to get her good defense and good HP here. Does she need technically 2,000 defense? Absolutely not. Does she need 24,000 HP? Yeah. She needs the HP technically more than she needs the defense, but hey, when you fribbles and you ask for the highest EHP, I should probably ask for HP, is what I probably should have done, versus the 2,000 defense. But hey, it works out. It actually does balance out because the goal is eventually to make her the tank and take the most hits, especially if the run drags out. So meaning if you don't land the defense breaks and slows the run down, she will eventually get up to her 5th threat level, making her take absolutely all the hits. So in this case, we've got her on decent bulk all the way around. She should not die. Now, for the one time in my account's history, here you go. Here is an account first. You're going to be proud of me. My Tamron has near proper gear on her. Oh my gosh, I know. So, the reason why I didn't mention Celestine was because I personally would rather use Celestine on Tamron. Now, there's a couple different artifacts here that really do work out well. You can technically use Potion Vial, which you may end up liking better because you may want to try to get the stuns off of Luluca and Great Chief Kiwana. But in this case, Tamron is the healer here. Roanna is just to take the hits and get the bonus heals from based off of her passive. So in this case, Celestine makes a little bit more sense for the extra heals. Your mileage will vary. You can technically even use Rod of Amaryllis if you really need it. You could probably, like I said, use Potion Vial. You might even want to use Water's Origin. Like I said, there's a lot of Soul Weaver artifacts, but to me, this one's the one that works best for what I have. Of course, Tamron skills are Tamron skills. Roanna skills are Roanna skills. We shouldn't really even cover those, just because we're already to the point where Tamron's going to be used as your normal Tamron, and we already know not to do this, and Roanna definitely needs her passive, and you're never going to see her revive, so don't even worry with it. So now, Tamron's stats are so nice to actually have a Tamron that doesn't look like a dumpster pit. Literally, she had plus 1270 gear and event pieces that weren't leveled up. It was just a train wreck. But for once, Tamron kind of looks like a real authentic Soul Weaver. It's great. She'll go back to her dumpster as soon as this video is over with. Don't you worry. I'm not going to let down the forever trash can unit. All right, but for this, again, if you're going to be playing this long term, no memeing aside, you actually do want to make sure Tamron has some bulk. So I made sure we got good defense and decent HP. The only reason she ended up with the higher defense than where I was kind of going for was just because it's what balanced out for speed and effectiveness with just the overall kit. So we got her sitting on 64 effectiveness, just in case you do need to strip something for anything long term. This is what I would be trying to build her at. 211 speed because I wanted her faster. We got just almost at 15,000 HP and 1,800 defense. She can take a hit, and she's going to get hit. So we definitely wanted the extra bulk on her to just be safe, but also keeping her faster so that she is cycling more than normal. My normal Tamron's around 200. Some people put her at 220, 230, but for where I'm at, 200 Tamron for most PvE content is fine. But because we're thinking about long-term investment of farming Caides a lot, you do want the extra bulk here. So putting the extra investment in Tamron is key. Now, let's talk about probably the most important unit here, Luluca. Now, why is Luluca so important? Defense break. It's really down to the defense break. Yes, you could bring in a designated defense breaker, but honestly, I would rather play Russian roulette when it comes to the defense break here and gain the extra damage than have a completely useless unit, leaving it just to Great Chief Kiwana to do the damage. May it technically probably balance out long term? Yes. But I would rather be a gambling man, and there's a reason why. So I'm going ahead and I'm putting her on Caladra. I could technically level this up to plus 30, but I just don't have the artifact charms right now on my account to do so. Personally here, she's going to do better on Caladra than Daydream Joker. You can use Daydream Joker, nothing wrong with it, but it's slightly worse than Caladra. We are using the exclusive equipment like everybody should on Luluca. There is only one exclusive equipment for her, and it's this one. Having the 35% chance to activate the Wild Wave again. Also a second chance at defense break. Skills, you do want to make sure you have her skills at plus 5. You need the barrier on cooldown at absolute minimum here, and you need her S3 on cooldown at absolute minimum here. But you do not need to fully invest into the barrier unless you are really getting destroyed in whether it be PvE or PvP based stuff. So you just need the cooldown here, but I do recommend max damage here, and obviously max damage on the S1. Now, as far as stats, absolutely, you see it right there. Speed, penetration. Yes, is this something that people are going to have not just the easiest access to? Correct. This is not something you're just going to instantly be able to get into. You will probably use a worse team to get it going, but this is what you will eventually refine your team to have. It's something more like this. So, the big thing to notice is the 72% effectiveness to land defense breaks. You have one job, Luluca. Just please do this. Now, why I keep memeing on this is because there will be runs where you won't ever see it, and it's forever. And some runs, it's defense breaks the entire run, and it is super great. We've got decent crit damage, 100% crit chance here, because she does not have elemental advantage, so you got to go 100% here. 184 speed, just to make her cycle faster than Kiwana, because we want her in front of Kiwana for the most of the time. Obviously, Idol's Cheer and her exclusive equipment will alter that. Spoilers. Some bulk and defense. The reason why we want a little extra defense here is to help out the defense buff. So her S2 is going to help keep a barrier up, which is one, just the skill overall is to help cycle the threat level off of you, because you don't want to get hit consistently by that thing. And 2, to give you the defense and barrier to just be able to take a hit. So for what I had on my account, this is about the right spot. I could probably go a little bulkier. Mike could go a little more damagey, but this is kind of where I felt safe, to where I didn't feel like Luluca's just going to get popped. And especially on speed pen, which I don't have a lot of this on my account that's really like dialed and specific to work for something like this. This is pretty darn good. You can probably come up with a better Luluca long term if you are investing into it specifically. So overall, pretty good Luluca. Now let's talk about the hardest to get unit, which is Great Chief Kawaii. All right. Thank you, Smilegate, for literally making a Caides 13 unit. If you came out and actually said we designed this unit specifically for Caides, we'd be like, we know. But somebody's out there going to say, no, she's a PvP unit. Okay, cool. Now, so, Great Chief Kiwana is definitely a necessity here in the terms for my team. You can make teams work without her. You can get restrict from other places. But in this case, this is designed specifically for Caides. Use it if you have it. I don't have anything other than really Draco Plate that stands out to me for artifacts, so I'm going the Daydream Joker route, even though I'm not going to get the full advantage of it. I've already baked that into my calculation here, and I use it on my one-shot comp, so I already know that Daydream Joker will do the job. I just don't really have a Draco Plate, and I don't have, I'll be honest, I have enough Draco Plates, but I just don't have a high enough Draco Plate to make it worth it for her on Caides. Now, since I actually did my original Caides runs, Great Chief Kiwana has gotten an exclusive equipment, which she did not have. Now, I was personally hoping for either 1 or 3. But, specifically for Caides 13, I think I actually got the perfect one, which is why I made sure I locked this immediately. In case, for whatever reason, I decided to get off one-shots and just farm it normally. In this case, number 2 is so ideal for this. When an ally is attacked by a dual attack, exactly what Caides does, increases combat readiness of the caster by 15%, can be activated once per skill. So every time she gets hit, or somebody gets hit by a dual attack, she gets combat readiness pushed. And if it happens to be Roanna, Roanna's pushing her, and so is this. Now, you can see she is on a Rage pen set. Yes, she is the damage here. Why? Elemental advantage. And 2, because she actually does hit really hard. Now, you may see right here that I've got 1 Mola in her S3. Let's actually talk about her skills. Let's go to the skill menu. Again, if I was a person who was going to use this very long term, I would actually invest into the S1 completely for the extra damage. And the effect chance would be huge. But, in the case for me, I knew I was coming out of Caides early enough that I wouldn't need this. So, as soon as I got my one-shot comp, I didn't need to go any further. You are specifically trying to avoid a one-shot comp here, please level this up. Now, another note that you need to take into account, especially if you use Fribbles and you're trying to set her up, and you do not want to waste the Molas here, you just need to add an extra 10% crit chance to your Fribbles So in this case, if you're going to get at the minimum for type advantage, which is 85% crit rate, you need to make sure Fribbles recognizes it at 95 crit rate, because it will account for the fully leveled passive, which I actually had to go back and recalculate, because when I was sitting there staring at the number going, wait, I'm short, I forgot it counts for the passive. And then everybody, whether you're starting off with her or not, one mola here is absolutely mandatory. Go ahead and get this, because you want to cycle her S3 as much as possible to get the threat level off of her. Now, stat-wise, we do have her triple S. I just happen to have them, so she is self-imprinted. So here you go. Here are these stats. We've got 73 effectiveness to make sure that we land restrict as much as possible. We have 295 crit damage. We have the 89 crit rate, so we are good to go. We've got her at 155 speed. Again, this is kind of also why I couldn't make Luluca on Rage, is because she took the better pen speed boot, so it just really didn't happen, so I couldn't really get a Luluca much faster. And then we've got okay bulk here. Now, here's the cool thing. Because we've got everything baked in with extra heals, the defense buff, we're okay running her a little leaner for a warrior. Now, in theory, you probably could build this set better long-term if you're really going after building a rage set designed for her. In this case, we got 3,800 attack, which is great. You'll see that for being a very minimalistic build, she's chunking Caides. So you can only imagine what it would be if she was fully 15'd, or, I mean, if you felt the mola cost was worth crit chance, 10 crit chance, you could get more crit damage on her and bake in a little extra. That's up to you. I'm not going to tell you how to spend your molas. They're hard to get it as it is. So let's jump in and talk about the run. Also, real quick, just to make sure that if you do have imprints, make sure that Great Chief Kiwana and Luluca are the ones sitting in here, because they will be taking the majority of the damage for most of the hunt. So now let's just pray for good 15%ing and it just stays away. Just stay away. So that we get a very clean, very fast run. Well, it's fast as it's going to get for Caides. So, what do we need to know here? The short here is, as soon as this guy gets debuffed, you're going to start getting counterattacked, which is also one of the reasons this slows down so bad, which is why I like the one-shot, because as soon as you debuff it, he's going to counter once, and then Sirmia is going to blow him up, and then you're on to the next phase. So from here on out, as long as there's a debuff, he's going to counter and make this be just really annoying. Other than that, there's nothing you have to worry about here. There's no injury baked in. There's no nothing. It's just normal killing it. So they're going to cycle through, take their time. It's not really a big deal here. I've never failed this run from him killing a unit. I've never had that bad of a luck. No matter what, they always do enough damage here. A couple things you'll want to note here is the more damage you can do, the more likely you're to set up for a better run at Caides. I personally like Tamron hitting idle mode at Caides, not in here. But you can't control everything, and it really comes down to landing the defense break, which is Luluca is being really stubborn about on this specific run. In a lot of my test runs and things like that, Luluca lands the defense break many times here. So here we go. We've got it now, and next time, so see, Tamron pops it here. I normally don't mind this as long as it lines up to where we get the CR push here one more time when we get into Caides to push it through so that they all can do cycle a turn. Now, Luluca and Great Chief Kiwana can totally kill from here on out, and it should die. Okay, almost made it with Luluca. A little bit more damage and she would have made it. Now, Great Chief Kiwana will go take her extra turn, and we're on to Caides. So here we go. This is where things get fun, and this is where you need to start paying attention. Now, unfortunately, Tamron's going to bring the highest attacker, which right now is Luluca because she had the attack buff still. Luluca will be able to cycle off that, and this is why I say you want the push here. By having the push here, it allows you to avoid getting stripped, and you can get everything set up for at least one straight full turn. So, as soon as we can get the restrict on, the better. If you play the whole game and only land restrict, it's just a slow run, but you won't have to deal with the CR push. And the reason this is so important here is whenever an ally attacks attacks you, it will CR push Caides. That's what restrict is here to prevent. And it is a very annoying fight when you don't have restrict. I can tell you this from one shots, when you slip up and you don't kill him, you think you can win, but that CR push kills you every time. It's super annoying. Okay, now if this is your first time looking at Caides, you notice that there are uncleansable buffs, which are the red buffs here. They're debuffs. These are your threat, I call them threat levels, is what I've been calling them. Non-attack skills cleanse these off, which is why I prefer Luluca, Tamron, and Great Chief Kiwana. Why we've got Roanna here is specifically to be the person to have a max level threat. What is max level? It is level 5, which Luluca is about to get if she doesn't cycle her. There you go. She's now got it, which means she will be focused down first over everybody. And she also takes the most damage, I believe, too. So, here's the cool thing. By having non-attack skills, prevents that from happening. Roanna's going to hold that down, and once she gets high enough, she'll be the one to take all the hits from here on out, which will now push Great Chief Kiwana forward. And in this case, we're about done, which is awesome. Actually, we are done. So the couple things that I wanted to mention is, as long as you're getting defense breaks, the runs aren't too terribly bad. Having Roanna technically faster is better in a point. I can't get the speed here, and you can see why. The more times she attacks with her S1, or hoping that she gets extra attacks, the more likely she is to gain her threat level, taking the focus off somebody else. By building the extra bulk in and accounting kind of for the defense buff, you can get away with a lot here. Investing into these units specifically for Caides is a very good idea because you can shorten your time spans a lot. I've done this on a lot worse gear. But for the video, and again, for the advanced version of what you're going to be wanting, this is a lot more like it. Unfortunately, it's just, you can't avoid it. It's a long run. This is going to be 2 hours to farm out 20. I'm sorry. There's really not much better you can do other than a one-shot. There are other one-shots out there than what I have. If you want to go look them up, they're out there. I'm just using what I have on my account, and they're all about the same. The most successful one of them all is probably the Strays one. But then again, you've got to come up with, is Strays really worth sending to a PvE unit? So here's the thing. If you guys got any questions, I'll be happy to help, and I'll try my best to help you guys in the comments. This is a painful hunt, no matter how you look at it. But the gear reward here is really, really good. I find a lot of value in what Injury can offer, what Revenge can offer, and what Penetration sets can offer. There's a lot of good here. So investing into this team, and in this case, the best version of a non-one-shot is here. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.